Looks like those alien bastards drank all my beer.
Yeah, I was there when Duke Forever began, when I was at 3D Realms, and it's actually surprising that some of the core storyline persisted all this time. Some of the core intent, really exciting to see that survived all this time. It's been evolved and iterated and improved and iterated and improved over the years. The 3D Realms guys, just phenomenal commitment and incredible talent what those guys were able to do. You know, one of the things that's always been fun about Duke is when you're playing in that environment, you kind of expect things to react. Too many times when we play games today, the world is just a shell. It's just a dead shell, and it doesn't respond to us. In Duke's world, things do something along the lines of what you'd expect them to do. Sometimes, it's simple stuff like, oh, there's a toilet. I can go to the bathroom and use the toilet. Okay. Sometimes you're able to do things that make sense but aren't entirely expected. For example, what if someone else used that toilet and forgot to flush it? And there's a floater in there, and you look down and you're like, oh, that's kind of gross. And then you realize a prompt comes up and it says, press the button to pick up. And you're like, pick up? And you're like, well, okay. And you press the button. Sure enough, Duke reaches down. He's got a turd in his hand. You're like, you gotta be kidding me. This is actually happening in a video game. And Duke himself was like, why am I doing this? Or he makes some comment about it. And yeah, you can throw it around and you just think it's,
Time to stop pissing around and get this big guy back into action.
Different games have different flavors to it, and Duke is a crafted experience. Now, in that crafted experience, there's kind of a couple of things at play. One thing, if you want to get heady in game design, one thing is about a pacing, where you kind of toggle between sort of an action skill test kind of pacing where, okay, there's the enemies and I've got to beat them before they beat me, and certainly there's different tactics and strategies depending on which enemy you're facing and what tools you have at your disposal. But when you clear that out, then there's another pacing that starts to come into it, and sometimes it's more cognitive or more exploratory, like there's the critical path but I can't reach it. I gotta figure out what to do here to kind of get around this so that I can move forward. And sometimes you have to solve a puzzle, or sometimes there's a little bit of platforming gameplay where you have to use a different kind of maneuvering skill to get through the test. And when we find those things, yes, our heart rate slows down a little bit, and we're maybe at the beginning we're kind of what's expected of me here, and you get a little bit of confusion at first, and then you go, I think this is what I'm supposed to do, and then you start to figure out, aha, and then you feel great, you feel really gratified. I'm smarter than this freaking game, and I figured it out, and you feel good about overcoming that challenge, and then you're back into combat again. And then you layer in things like alternate gameplay, like, oh cool, now you're driving a remote control car, or holy crap, I'm flying a spaceship, or I'm shooting down I'm on a turret, all kinds of interesting alternate gameplay to kind of make this a larger than life adventure that just spans the whole gamut. And then what's neat is you get these things off to the side. I'm in Duke's arcade and there's a pinball machine there. Let me see what happens if I just, walk up to it. Oh, look, it says play pinball. Sweet. Holy crap, this is a fully featured pinball machine that's got, it's an actual full pinball simulation. The puzzles really aren't about stumping you. It's about creating kind of a different kind of challenge and mixing up the pacing. I think Half-Life is a brilliant example, and I think there's actually few games out there that get it. And I think Half-Life both borrowed from and evolved brilliantly from the foundation that Duke 3D actually set. And Duke 3D was an innovator there. Now, in the terms of puzzle versus shooter gameplay, I think Duke 3D actually evolved and iterated from where Doom was. Doom was probably the first one where it wasn't just about shooting, but there was different ways we proceed. Now, back then it was very simple. It's usually card key and door mechanics. Like, oh, there's the red door, where's the red key? Duke actually makes fun of this in Duke Forever. One of the very early things that happens is you run up to a door that's locked and the computer voice says, red key card required. And Duke says, key card? I don't need no fucking key card. And you can just rip the door apart. And this kind of makes a joke about that, more antiquated kind of gameplay, but it doesn't mean to say that there aren't those cognitive opportunities where you feel rewarded for having figured out how to maneuver through the environment. And this is gameplay that is missing. It'll be interesting to see how well it works, to see if it creates more love and respect for the experience, or if it creates some blocks for some gamers that just don't want to think at all.
Right in the jewels.
The reasons why Borderlands are interesting are totally different reasons why Duke Nukem is interesting. The fantasy of Duke is to be able to step into this guy's boots and have an experience like no other. There's no one on the planet like Duke. And the key here is we want to become Duke Nukem and we want to save the motherfucking world, and we want to go through the wildest adventure known to man. So we want to just be everywhere, all over the map, and have everything thrown in our face, and Duke handles it. Duke handles it and shuts it down, and that's what Duke Nukem's all about. Now, there's other kinds of components to the gameplay loop, like the use of unique tools and weapons that are very special and important when you talk about Duke Nukem. Things like, oh, I have a shrink ray, I can shrink you and step on you. You know, that kind of stuff doesn't exist in Borderlands. Or a freeze gun, where I can break you into little ice cubes after I've frozen you, or use a holoduke to distract you, where you think I'm over there, but I'm actually over here. Now, some of these tools are actually quite fun in multiplayer. In multiplayer, we need to show that before I really get into the details of it, but that's also a fun place where we've explored some other things. There's so much. I love the little surprising moments. I think the thing that is probably the stickiest is, I think this is the only game ever in the history of the game industry where there's an interactive glory hole. Duke Nukem Forever. Believe it or not, it comes out the day hell freezes over and pigs fly. It's May 3rd, and it's coming on the Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3, and the PC, and I can't wait. We're almost there.
You want to touch it, don't you?